My boss fired me over a 4-minute Zoom call, so I hacked my severance contract and legally stole $95,000. I was staring at the glowing screen of my banking app, watching the pixelated numbers refresh in real time, when the incoming call from a San Francisco area code completely shattered the late afternoon silence of my home in Bahawalpur. My account balance hadn't gone up by the pathetic $4,000 severance package they promised me. The bold green digits staring back at me translated to exactly 95,000 United States dollars, roughly 26.4 million Irani rupees, and the frantic, unhinged voicemail waiting for me from my former employer's head of legal confirmed that I had just successfully executed the most devastating digital checkmate in the history of Silicon Valley. The metallic taste of pure adrenaline flooded my mouth as I listened to the voicemail. Just 10 days ago, I was a senior Flutter developer for a tech unicorn startup that prided itself on disrupting the mobile landscape. For 3 brutal years, I was the unseen engine running their entire front-end architecture. Because I was based in Iran, working entirely remotely while they slept in California, they paid me a fraction of what my American counterparts made. I didn't complain. I drank thick black tea at 3 in the morning, stared at my dual monitors until my eyes burned, and wrote tens of thousands of lines of pristine, bug-free Dart code. I built the proprietary widgets that secured their Series C funding. I was the loyal, silent, highly profitable workhorse. Then came last Monday. My calendar pinged with an unexpected, all-hands-sync invite. No agenda, no context, just a sterile Zoom link. When I joined the call, the gallery view was populated by 200 exhausted faces. The CEO, a guy who wore perfectly ironed Patagonia vests and threw around words like synergy and agile, didn't even look into his webcam. He stared off at a second monitor, his voice entirely devoid of human empathy. Due to macroeconomic headwinds, we are streamlining our global footprint, he droned, reading monotonically from a pre-written corporate script. If you are on this call, your role has been impacted by this restructuring. Your access to the company repositories will be terminated in exactly 10 minutes. HR will reach out with your transition details. Thank you for your contributions. Click. The screen went black. A 4-minute call. 3 entire years of my life, my absolute loyalty, my bleeding edge code, entirely erased in 240 seconds. I felt the heat rising in my neck and my vision went blurry with rage. I slammed my fists onto my desk so hard my mechanical keyboard rattled against the wood. My Slack application forcefully quit before my eyes. My GitHub access threw a harsh 404 error on my second monitor. They were actively purging my digital existence from their system before my heart rate could even stabilize. 10 minutes later, the final insult arrived in my personal email inbox. It was a message from Chloe, a junior HR representative who was clearly drowning in the sheer logistical nightmare of terminating 15% of a global workforce in a single afternoon. Dear Dana, attached is your transition agreement. Please sign and return within 24 hours to process your severance. I opened the attachment. My teeth ground together so hard my jaw ached as I read the terms. The severance was an absolute, insulting joke. 2 weeks of base pay, $4,000. But the true venom was hidden down in Section 7. A draconian, globally encompassing, non-compete clause that explicitly banned me from working in the mobile development space, for any competitor, anywhere on Earth, for 24 months. They were firing me to save a few bucks for their quarterly report, and in return, they were demanding I completely abandon my livelihood for 2 years. They expected me to just roll over, sign my financial death warrant, and starve quietly. But Chloe made a catastrophic, foundational mistake. She didn't send a locked, immutable DocuSign link. She didn't send a secured, read-only PDF file. She was panicking, rushing blindly through a massive spreadsheet of terminated employees, and she attached the agreement as a raw, fully editable Microsoft Word .docs document. I stared at the blinking cursor at the end of the document. The profound, staggering incompetence of sending an editable legal contract to a senior software engineer felt like a physical electric shock radiating through my chest. They thought I was just a disposable offshore asset. They forgot that I dismantle complex digital structures for a living. That's when the real bombshell dropped. I wasn't just going to delete the non-compete. I was going to rewrite my entire reality. But I couldn't simply type over the text. I know exactly how corporate legal teams operate. Microsoft Word tracks every single keystroke. It embeds hidden XML metadata deep within the file's architecture, cataloging exactly who edited the document, exactly what time it was changed, and exactly which which lines were altered. If I just changed the numbers and emailed it back, their system would instantly flag the document as modified by user, Dana, and void the entire agreement. I needed the changes to look like they were organically authored by HR. I needed to forge the digital fingerprints. I cracked my knuckles, opened my terminal, and wrote a custom Python script. A .docs file is essentially just a zipped folder containing a labyrinth of XML code. I unzipped the contract, exposing the raw, underlying skeletal structure of the document. I bypassed the standard user interface completely. I navigated deep into the core.xml and app.xml files, the exact places where Microsoft hides the authorship metadata. Using my Python script, I meticulously scrubbed my local machine's IP address, my user profile name, and my timestamp out of the revision history. I cloned Chloe's exact digital signature metadata, her DC, creator tags, and pasted it perfectly over my own. Then, I went to work on the actual text. I navigated to section 3, severance pay. I highlighted the word 2 weeks and seamlessly replaced it with 12 months. But I didn't stop there. My fingers flew across the keyboard, fueled by years of pent-up exhaustion and sheer, unadulterated spite. I scrolled down to section 4, intellectual property. This was the section where they legally claimed ownership over every single line of code I had ever written for them. I inserted a new, deeply camouflaged subclause, matching the exact font, spacing, and bureaucratic legal jargon of the surrounding text. Subsection 4.2.a. The company explicitly acknowledges that all proprietary Flutter widgets, custom UI rendering engines, and associated source code developed by the employee during the term of employment remain the exclusive intellectual property of the employee, unless a mandatory, one-time, transfer fee of $50,000 is paid in full upon termination to secure commercial licensing. I smiled, a dark, predatory grin stretching across my face in the glow of my monitors. Finally, I navigated to the offensive non-compete clause. I didn't delete it. Deleting a massive paragraph would alter the page count and visually alert even the most exhausted HR rep. Instead, I carefully tweaked the geographical enforcement parameters. I changed any territory in which the company operates to the physical planetary boundaries of Mars. Now came the most critical part of the operation, the AI bypass. I knew for a fact that this company used a third-party, automated AI contract reviewer to process standard employee exits. The AI doesn't actually read the English words. It scans for specific formatting markers, optical character recognition baselines, and layout structures to verify the document hasn't been tampered with. It looks for anomalies in kerning, the microspacing between individual letters, and font weight. I meticulously adjusted the kerning of my inserted clauses to precisely match the 1.15 line spacing and the specific optical density of the original corporate template. I forced the document to mathematically mirror the original layout. I ran my Python script one last time to permanently seal the metadata. According to the raw code of the file, Chloe had authored these exact terms herself on her corporate laptop in California. I exported the file as a flattened, high-resolution PDF, completely locking the text in place and severing any remaining connection to Microsoft Word's revision tracking. I appended my digital signature to the bottom line. I opened my email, hit reply to Chloe, and typed a deliberately brief, submissive response. Dear Chloe, I have reviewed the terms. Agreed. Please finalize my exit. I clicked send. The next 48 hours felt like holding my breath at the bottom of a freezing swimming pool. I didn't sleep. I paced the tiled floors of my Bawalpur apartment, drinking endless cups of chai, waiting for the email that said they had caught me. I was waiting for the threat of a lawsuit. I was waiting for the termination of the severance entirely. Instead, on Thursday afternoon, I received an automated notification from the company's DocuSign portal. Document countersigned by authorized representative. Chloe, completely overwhelmed by processing 200 layoffs, hadn't read a single word. She saw the familiar visual layout, saw my signature, blindly dragged her official digital stamp onto the final page, and clicked approve. Her approval bypassed the AI reviewer completely because it was now an officially executed, dual-signed corporate contract. Her digital stamp instantly triggered an API call to the automated payroll software to execute the terms of the agreement. Which brings me to today, Wednesday, March 25, 2026. Exactly 4:05 p.m. here in Iran. The automated payroll system didn't flag the amount because I had hard-coded the severance and the $50,000 intellectual property transfer fee as legally binding, pre-approved contractual obligations. The system simply read the executed PDF, calculated my 12-month salary plus the IP fee, and wired exactly $95,000 directly into my international bank account. 10 minutes after the wire cleared, my phone began vibrating so violently it nearly walked itself off my desk. The caller ID read, San Francisco, California. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. It immediately rang again. I let it go to voicemail. By the fifth call, call, I finally picked up, hitting the record button on my end to ensure I captured every single word. "Dana," a voice screamed through the speaker, entirely abandoning any semblance of professional decorum. It was Richard, the company's head of legal. He was hyperventilating, his voice cracking with absolute, unhinged panic. "What the hell did you do? Our accounting software just flagged a $95,000 international wire transfer to your account. We sent you a standard $4,000 severance. This is grand larceny. We are contacting the Federal Investigation Agency in Iran right now. We are charging you with wire fraud and digital manipulation. You are going to prison." "Hello, Richard," I replied, my voice dangerously calm, projecting the icy composure of a woman who was holding 4 aces. "I highly suggest you lower your voice. I didn't manipulate anything. I simply accepted the finalized, countersigned severance agreement that your authorized HR representative sent me." "You altered the document," Richard hissed, the sound of him furiously slamming a heavy hand onto his desk echoing through the line. "You forged a $50,000 IP fee. You changed the non-compete to Mars. This is a fraudulent document." I didn't panic. I didn't get defensive. I simply smiled at my monitor. Last week, the exact moment Chloe countersigned the PDF, I had securely forwarded the fully executed document, along with the complete email chain, to a highly ruthless employment and tech law attorney based in Islamabad. We had been meticulously preparing for this exact phone call. "I'm merging my legal counsel into this call, Richard," I stated, tapping the screen to add my lawyer, Tariq. "Richard, this is Tariq Ahmed," my lawyer's deep, resonant voice cut through the static, instantly dominating the conversation. "I strongly advise you to retract your threats of criminal prosecution immediately. Let's look at the facts. You sent my client an editable Word document as an initial offer. My client made revisions to the terms. In contract law, this is legally defined as a counteroffer. My client returned the counteroffer in a locked PDF format. Your authorized representative, Chloe, then digitally stamped and executed the agreement. We have the cryptographic hash of the signature. It is a legally binding contract. It was a mistake," Richard screamed, his voice pitching up into a desperate, pathetic whine. "Chloe didn't read it. She thought it was the standard template. We are clawing those funds back immediately. If you attempt to reverse that international wire, or if you attempt to file a civil suit regarding this executed contract," Tariq countered, his tone slicing through Richard's panic like a surgical scalpel, "we will immediately move to subpoena the internal metadata logs of your entire HR department's offboarding process. In the tech world, Richard, we call this a feature, not a bug. Your representative signed it. If you argue in open court that Chloe was legally negligent in signing contracts without reading them, we will systematically move to invalidate every single non-disclosure agreement and non-compete clause that the other 200 laid-off employees signed last week. We will expose to your shareholders that your entire Q1 restructuring was handled so incompetently that your core IP is completely unprotected." The silence on the other end of the line was absolute, profound, and breathtakingly beautiful. I could actually hear Richard's ragged breathing over the connection. He was entirely trapped in a legal vice of his own making. If they sued me to recover the $95,000, the ensuing legal discovery phase would publicly expose that their HR department was blindly signing unreviewed, modified contracts. Every single engineer, developer, and executive they had brutally fired on that Monday Zoom call would instantly realize their NDAs were legally fragile. The massive, multi-million-dollar Silicon Valley unicorn would be exposed as a disorganized, incompetent liability. "You are extorting us," Richard whispered, the fight completely draining out of his voice, replaced by the hollow realization of total defeat. "I am enforcing a signed contract," I corrected him, leaning forward into my microphone. "You wanted my code, Richard. Now you've paid for it. Have a wonderful quarter." I ended the call. The fallout was magnificent in its absolute lack of consequence. The company's legal team went completely, permanently dead silent. They didn't contact the FIA. They didn't file a civil suit. They didn't attempt to freeze my bank account. They simply absorbed the $95,000 loss as a catastrophic, off-the-books internal error to avoid a massive, public shareholder disaster. Chloe, the HR rep, was quietly let go the following morning, and the company immediately transitioned to a highly restrictive, third-party contract management software. But for me, my entire reality shifted. 26.4 million Irani rupees is a completely life-altering amount of capital in Bahawalpur. I didn't buy a luxury car. I didn't go on a lavish vacation. I took the exact money they tried to starve me out of and leased a beautiful, beautiful, sunlit commercial office space right in the heart of the city. I purchased top-of-the-line MacBooks, high-end ergonomic chairs, and industrial-grade fiber optic internet. I am currently building my own independent mobile development agency. And the absolute, crowning irony of this entire saga? Because my legally binding, countersigned severance agreement explicitly states that my non-compete clause applies strictly to the physical planetary boundaries of Mars, I am completely unrestricted here on Earth. In fact, I just finished conducting interviews yesterday. I am currently hiring 3 of my former, highly talented coworkers who were laid off on that exact same Zoom call. They are brilliant developers who were tossed aside like garbage, and now they are coming to work for a company that actually respects their immense value, funded entirely by the severance check of the CEO who fired them. As I sit here in my new office, sipping my tea and watching my newly hired team push their first commits to our private repository, I sometimes think about Richard, sitting in his sterile California office, knowing his incompetence bankrolled his newest competitor. Am I the monster here, or did they get exactly what they deserved?
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.